From deep within Makash Films HQ and parts unknown, this is the Weekly Messenger.
And are we rolling?
Okay, hello, welcome to the Weekly Messenger, a new news and information show we hope you guys will be fans of. We want to talk about different issues, kind of do deep dives into issues, have more opinions, give you facts on the news, but also get different takes from different people. With me, I have Chloe and Zipporah, our panelists. Chloe, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself since it's our first show?
Yeah, sure. My name's Chloe. I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee, and I'm currently a student at UT Knoxville, I'm studying journalism and electronic media, and I'm a senior, so I should be graduating this spring, hopefully. And part of the reason why I wanted to be on this podcast is because I'm specifically interested in investigative reporting and that sort of thing, and a lot of the things we talk about in class, and then also just things I'm interested in general with investigative stuff, is the news nowadays, especially with internet and stuff, like the pros and cons of it, you know, what the benefits are, what's missing, that kind of thing. So I think this podcast will be a good addition to that discussion.
Awesome. Well, we're very excited to have you. So thank you for being a part of it. I think it's going to be great to have different points of view on everything. Zipporah, what about you? Tell us about yourself.
Hey, y'all. My name is Zipporah Gatling. I am from Harlem, New York. So I am a New Yorker. I graduated from Norfolk State University with my bachelor's in business management and a minor in sociology. The thing I do to pay my bills is I'm a financial literacy educator at a charter school in Harlem, actually. So it's been a wonderful opportunity to be able to come back to my community and, you know, breathe life into these children. I teach middle school, so there's a lot of breathing of life that goes on there. But I'm really excited to be a part of this podcast. My friend who's also my manager, Roy George, who's somewhere in the ether right now, he told me about it. And he was like, "You'd be a great fit." And I was like, "Cool." And then I met Jason. I was like, "This is dope." Especially with, you know, corporate media versus TikTok and internet media. I think there is a place where people can dance in between, where there's informed and educated commentary and also just personal opinions of people that you know and trust and are personable and reachable. So I think that's a nice place to where the Daily Messenger can fall.
Very cool. I always think that in the middle somewhere is common sense. You know, we have people on both sides and it just seems to go too far either side. And somewhere in the middle, I think, is where most people find themselves in the country. So I don't know really why we can't get there. Do you all think it's because there's too much money involved in politics and they want to divide us?
I think partly, yeah. I think also, too, again, just with the internet and stuff nowadays, especially with certain algorithms and stuff like that, it just kind of keeps feeding you the same things or the same perspectives, you know, the same bigger people with more power and more fame and stuff like that. You know, you only get those certain opinions and stuff. And so then just further divides people because one side's only seeing this side of the news and then the other side's only seeing, you know, this perspective from this end. So it doesn't really help.
Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree with the monetary benefit of Fox News versus CNN versus MSNBC versus The Atlantic. There's a need to pander to specific people with specific opinions because those are their clientele. And those are the people that continue to come back and make them revenue. And then on like the TikTok side, not everybody is reputable. People are just like rattling off opinions. Not everybody's doing research. They are lacking context. So it's kind of hard to like know who you can trust. It's like, can you trust them because of finances or can you actually trust them because they know what they're talking about? And I think it's easier to gain attention and to mine attention when you can pander to extremist opinions. And so I don't think anybody wants to dance in the gray. I think everybody wants to be black or white because black or white is easier for us to understand. And it gets the most attention, which then gets the most money. And ultimately, people have bills to pay. And, you know, if attention means money, then they're going to do anything to get that.
That's so true. I think, back, I remember there were 3 channels to watch for news, and that was the news, and you had to catch it when it came on or you missed it. And now we're bombarded with information from all directions and so much spin and so much, I guess, opinion more than, trying to get you to buy into whatever side it is. We've lost our way. And as far as information goes for news, and that's old school journalism just seems to have gone out the window, and it's like, it's become a business, which is really sad. That's because I came from that world. That was my roots, working in local news and journalism. And it's just, I know local is different than national, but it's just heartbreaking sometimes to see how the news industry has gone, which direction it's going down now. So, wow. Well, hopefully we can offer a little bit of difference here. We can give facts and then also just comment on what we think. And who are we, right? But I mean, at least we're kind of a taste of society, of like maybe giving an opinion that some other people will have the same opinion as we do. Let's jump into some things. I've got some clips we can show, but the big thing I think this week were the 2 horrible plane crashes right off the top. I'll just there's the DC one. We can take a look at some of that video. I'm sure you all have probably seen that footage. That's early footage that was going on, but I just feel like you're and a figure skating team are coming home, and who would have ever thought that would have happened? I mean, that tragedy. It's just, you think, oh my gosh, we're done. Everybody's happy. And then this happens you get hit with a military helicopter. It's just unbelievable. What were your guys' thoughts when you first heard about it?
I was so intrigued, and I was talking to my mother about it, and she was like, did nobody contact them? Like, there's no way, because how aviation works, there are radars, and there are people in towers who are communicating with people who are flying whatever, to make sure that the pathways are clear for specific planes, and so that nobody intersects and nobody gets into an accident like this. And so, like, there are things put in parameters. So her first question was like, nobody told them that they were flying? Like, this doesn't make sense. And I saw somebody say that they were trying, this was basically an experiment to see if the US government can continue to operate if there is like nuclear warfare. And I'm like, whether or not that's true, one, that's convoluted and just like so maniacal and so insensitive to even put out in media at all. Like, these people have lost their lives, and the people in the military who were flying the aircraft lost their life. Like, nobody survived. There's not only that, but like, how insensitive can one person be to even insinuate, whether it's the truth or not? It's unfortunate to even imagine that our military, our government sees civilians as pawns. Even though like the Pentagon has failed a financial audit for the past like 6 years, and they're squandering our tax dollars. Outside of that fact, it's just like these people are suffering. These people are hurting. And the fact that this isn't the only aviation issue that has happened within the past, week and a half?
Yeah.
Like this isn't the only one. Like, children died that day. People didn't go home to their families that day. There needs to be nothing but our condolences, our deepest remorse, our apologies. What can we do to aid the families? There's a GoFundMe for the families of the DC aircraft because they didn't expect to have to afford a funeral for their children and their husbands and their wives and their family members. Like, what can we do to help? Should have been the first thing, not, oh, this might be a way to see if we can still control, whatever, if for the science, like we're preparing for nuclear warfare. Like,
And the excuse of, or what they said, Trump was saying it's the DEI aspect. I thought it was a little too early for that. There's that. What did you think about that, Chloe? Did you hear that?
I didn't hear that specifically, but kind of along the same lines, especially with like seeing reports of it on social media and stuff, going along with just that like kind of insensitive thing, the way some people report on it. I've seen footage of like the actual crash and things like that from like people around the area and stuff. And I get that stuff like that can be helpful, but some things are just so gruesome and stuff. And like these families are like scrolling on social media trying to find information about it and then coming across these like really violent, like graphic videos and things like that. Sometimes when it comes to like I guess like sort of like the people reporting or like the public reporting on things, I think it can go a little bit too far with social media and things like that, where it just gets out of hand or people like make jokes about it and things like that. And, again, that just harms the family more and they should be the first concern, not just trying to get clicks and views and things like that.
Absolutely. Have we become desensitized with social media to tragedy? Because you're right. It's like, things happen and we just like, oh, next day, okay, new day, what's going on? I just feel like, I don't know, it is a creepy feeling that like we just don't focus on what we should focus on. The people that lost their lives, the family members, instead of making it political right off the bat. I mean, yeah, there's a time and place to talk about that, like to make sure that if you're an air traffic controller, that you're the cream of the crop and the top of the line as far as what you do and your skill set, and pilots also. But right now, let's take a beat and just really focus on what's important and what we should be as human beings.
Yeah, as a person who allegedly benefited from DE&I initiatives, I 100% agree. I think that there's a time and place to talk about just the ability to do the job and do the job well, regardless of what your background is. Mm-hmm. And we can get into the whole DE&I conversation another day, another topic, another segment. Because I have feelings about that, as I should as a Black woman in this country. Sure. But yeah, I think there is a desensitization. I think COVID really pushed that forward because we were in our homes and all we could do was be on social media. And, with George Floyd and the shootings and the riots, and then people were, dropping like flies, dying left and right from COVID. We were over inundated with tragedies. And so now I know for me, and I know that this has been an experience for other just people of color whose communities have been targeted for whatever reason and have experienced violence. When we see violence like that, we compartmentalize it. And when we see tragedies, we compartmentalize it because it can be so much, but we still have to show up for work. We still have to do this. Like, we still have to function. And I think COVID allowed everybody to experience that reality that we, like, marginalized communities experience on a daily basis. And so now, instead of it just being a community like, well, we still have to push through regardless, now it's everybody. It's like, oh, well, a school got shot up. Oh my gosh, the families of children, a plane crash happens the next day, or we're in a pandemic. Like it's too much for our bodies to process. And so the best thing we can do to be able to get through life is to compartmentalize it and continue to move forward.
Yeah, it's kind of a survival mode, right? It's kind of how we survive. What's that? You're dead on with the shootings, because I feel like that not too long ago when a shooting happened at a school, that was like big news we'd hear about right away. Now it seems like it's almost a second thought. Like, yeah, there's no shooting today and 10 kids got killed, or it's just, have you all seen that where it feels like it's just pushed down in the news?
Yeah, 100%. Especially I have younger siblings that are like, still in school age. So like things like that obviously freak me out a lot and stuff. And so seeing other people my age just kind of like not acknowledge them, or sometimes not even know that, those kinds of things happen. There's been multiple times where, me or my friends or someone in my family has brought up a new shooting or bombing or anything like that. And, other people don't even know that it happened because it rarely gets reported on, or it does for like, a little tiny segment. And then people just move on to the next thing that happened.
Yeah, it's sad. It goes back to that where, news happened back in the day. You'd see news. All these stories would be top of the news. Now it's like yeah, there's so much going on in the news cycle that we talk about it a little bit, and then we go right into the politics of it. Like, well, how did this happen? Who's to blame? Who's to point the finger at? We just need to get back, I think, to our humanity a little bit. I think. Not long after that crash, we of course have Philadelphia, unfortunately, and there's this horrible video of it explosion. The thing I think about with this one is to, a pediatric patient having major medical procedures done and getting ready to fly home, and then this happens, and there's reports that maybe the pilot thought he was going up, gaining altitude, but in fact he was going down, and I think that's why they say that it was just such a horrendous crash into the ground. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of reports going on, but it's just horrible video there. Again, just goes back to what we were saying. I think the humanity of it. The first night I heard reports of people trying to already guess what would have happened and why, and the plane had a Mexican registry, so there is something. I mean, it's just, is it that time? Do we need to talk about that stuff at this moment? It just really frustrates me with the news and the corporate media, just always having to find that political angle.
Jeez, man. Like, people are dying. Yeah. Like, people will never see another day. Like, they will not be on this earth any longer. And the thing you want to harp on is a Mexican registry. That's what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. Like, that's it. That's the thing you got from this is a Mexican registry. That's what you got. A child just died. Come on.
And oh my gosh, the pilot may not have been, up to par, but they did say that later that no, they were really skilled pilots. So it's just like throwing out theories, just trying to put that to make a good story. And it's not about that. This is like the first 24 hours and they were doing that. So, it's disappointing. Just really disappointed in the way the news handles these things and just all of a sudden wants to divide us. So no matter what the story is, that's the first thing that they want to do is point fingers and point blame. But hopefully, like I said, this show is going to turn the tides on some of that. And maybe we'll be able to offer some common sense on some of these stories.
I have a question for Chloe, if you don't mind, Jason.
Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
Since Jason, you're vetted in this, like you got some time in journalism in general, but Chloe, like this is your degree. This is what you want to do with your life, especially like you said, investigative journalism. How do you feel about how the media has been alleged journalists have been handling, this type of sensitive situation and reporting it to the general public? Like, what are your thoughts? Do you have any opinions of how they've approached this? I'm just curious to know.
Yeah, it's honestly really like disheartening and kind of scary to see, obviously, since this is something I want to do and I have wanted to do it for a really long time. Like, even when I was younger, I'd always been interested in being on the news or doing that kind of thing. So going into it now, especially in this like new media age, it's really disheartening to see people treat it like that, because it also just makes people lose respect in journalists in general. Like, even some of my friends, when I tell them, I want to be a journalist and stuff like that, they kind of like question it or ask why, because they themselves like don't trust the news and think badly of journalists because of stories like this and the way people report on tragedies or political news and things like that. And so it kind of sucks to see nowadays that opinion has gone down, and that the way people report on those things, isn't necessarily as like sincere and thoughtful as it used to be. Whereas nowadays, especially again with media and stuff like that, people just want to either start controversy or get clicks or views or money or try to pander to a certain audience and stuff. And I think that's part of the reason why podcasts and sort of new, like more independent media sources have become more popular nowadays, because people, again, just don't trust those big outlets anymore.
Right.
That's really well said. I think looking at some of the California fires, I think it's interesting to know that people, and what you guys are hearing, that people do not trust the news, because I feel like that's so true. I think that's part of the problem, and it's to tell you that, oh gosh, you're going to go into news. I mean, it's such a great profession, because you do uncover truth, and you especially with the investigative side, Like this story with California fires. I mean, I'm sure you all heard all the different theories and opinions on this. I don't know. You look at this devastation, it just blows my mind still to look at that. I know they're trying to rebuild now, but what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it was the problem of local government with the water, with not having enough water? What do you think about that? Or do you think it was just nature? I mean, there were some arsonists involved.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure, probably. I mean, California has their fire season, which
Mm-hmm.
has historically been prolonged due to the ongoing drought in that area. The lake is drying up due to global warming. So when I hear the opinion of the government didn't have enough water, my first and probably most ignorant thought is, what do you want them to do? Make more water? Like they can't control that to an extent. They can plan for certain things and try to allocate and ration.
Mm-hmm.
But at a certain point, we human beings, the majority of us, we can't create water. There are companies, there's a company in particular who has been able to make a machine that creates water out of air and it separates the oxygen. It does the chemistry to create fresh drinking water. But in this situation, like he's probably not over there. And I don't think he's able to create enough water for a reservoir to be able to, what's the population of California? It's like 1.6 million. Like they need a lot of water in order to continue to maintain the city and the living conditions. And so when you have huge fires like that, arson or not, and you're already experiencing a drought and your state is susceptible to a lot of climate change and earthquakes and the repercussions of global warming,
Mm-hmm.
it really is a recipe for a disaster. And I mean, whether like the government can't control the weather. They can put parameters and laws and litigation and legislation around how companies operate for like CO2. And California does a really good job of that as well. They do a really good job of trying to enforce climate conscious laws and regulations and the CO2 max for certain cars. And you have to have this, you can't go over this or you'll be fined by like 2032. And like they do things, but I like, what can you do? What can you do? You don't have enough water. You have these fires that, because the air is drier and the temperatures are hotter and there's a drought, it's a perfect condition for these fires to expand and spread, which have been going on for the past couple of years. And it's just a perfect storm for a horrible situation.
Devil's advocate, is it too much? Is for the fact that they don't do a lot of clear cutting and remove some of the dead trees. Have they gone too far over to that side? Just pose that question.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and I'm not versed enough in their regulatory operations of what they do to mitigate. I do know that in off season, they do cut down like dead trees and things of that nature. And firefighters, they go and clear out that debris, or they clear out any like dry bush areas to try to mitigate the fires when it is fire season. If I knew more about like how much do they do in a season and what's likely, like the data and the statistics, I could give a more informed answer to that question. But from what I know, I think they do what they can with the data that they've had from previous years to try to prevent things from going forward. But I do think it would behoove them to shift their strategy and anticipate more, since they are experiencing the effects of global warming and that's extending their fire seasons.
Yeah. What do you think, Chloe?
Yeah, I think it's honestly probably a mixture of things. I think government obviously probably had some role to play in it, and then also there were, outside forces and things like that. But again, as far as like news reporting on it and stuff, I think it's just one of those things where they try to find someone to blame or some reason, especially when you're trying to get that story out fast and you don't necessarily know all the facts and details yet. Not that they necessarily make things up, but they're just trying to pin it on someone or try to come up with some reasoning for it, because obviously viewers and stuff are going to ask those questions.
Yeah.
So I think that plays a big role in it. I think there were things, obviously, retroactively, you can look back and say, oh, we could have done this or should have done this, but things like that can be really unpredictable. So it's not always necessarily all on them.
Right. There's enough blame, I guess, to go around. And one thing I did like, and it kind of surprised me that Trump did this, but when he went there and had that roundtable with the mayor and they had all the officials there and the lawmakers, I thought, I said to myself, that's the way we should handle all of these situations, that no matter what side we fall on politically, just sit down and get the problem solved and get these people back in their homes,
Yeah, I think I will say this. I'm not a fan of Trump. I'm not. I'm a New York.
Fine, yeah.
I'm a New Yorker. And so if you ask any New Yorker who's like from New York and who was around before The Apprentice and like knew Trump and had experiences with his father, like we don't like him. New York is just weird. We're not, most of New Yorkers are not fans of him. Not as like a president or anything, just like as a person. We just don't like the guy. However, I think that as a leader, that's what you should be doing. Ma, don't get mad at me, but as a leader, that's what you should be doing. You should be going, if he was a leader of a CEO and a branch of their company had a tragic incident, that's what you need to go do. You need to go have some FaceTime with your leaders and say, how as a leader can I serve you right now? What does your constituents, what do your people need right now? And how can I show up as your leader? How can we show up as a country? What resources do you need allocated? Like, what can we do? Roy put in the chat, 38.7 million people in California.
Wow.
And I have friends who live in like San Francisco, and I was like, fire. My friends are over there. I don't know. I've never been to the West Coast. I have no idea. And so I'm just like, are you okay?
Yeah.
And he's like, our house is okay. But, my favorite trail got burned up. A couple of my friends, their houses. There's some people on social media who are like, we're okay. We're just wearing masks. The air quality is abysmal right now, which we don't know what the long-term effects of that are. So like as a leader, you should go and see about California. They didn't vote for you, so you might need to go.
You might gain some votes if you do.
You might need to take a trip.
Exactly. You might need to and he did go to North Carolina too, so that was good, because I think North Carolina got kind of left out of the mix a little bit when we were, and people say, well, California was in the news a lot because of the celebrities there and this and that. And I'm sure there's probably some truth to that. I mean, I think also going back to with Trump, I mean, I think no matter what side we are, I think there is good things that we could point out among, even if if you don't agree with the politician at all. I think when they do something good, I think it's important to call that out, because it shows that, hey, it's common sense. It's a good thing that he did. Other things we may not like, but that is a good thing. So let's just call it out and, hope and pray that does other things like that. And when something like that happens, a tragedy, I think it's just important to put down all the politics and just kind of as a theme of the show's episode, but be a human first, and then worry about all the politics later. There's just so much pressure, I think, on politicians to do that. It's like they're getting campaign ads, while they're walking around in the rubble, or they're laying it to someone who's up for confirmation. They want to get those sound bites out and just drill down on somebody. But which is frustrating when you think about how our government works. And it's like, just get something done, just quit all the bickering and just do something. We're paying you your salaries. Just get something done for the American people.
Please.
Yes. Gosh.
Please. We've been waiting.
Yes, exactly. We're waiting on bated breath. Chloe, what do you hear on campus? Like, is there a mix of opinions on the California fires? Does everybody kind of see it from standpoints we're talking about, or is there some opinions that are completely different?
Yeah, I would say in general, just UT as a culture is kind of a mix. Obviously, there are lots of people from the South who sort of fall on that more conservative side, but then also you have a lot of very liberal college students who are on the other end of the spectrum. So having those discussions, especially in my journalism classes, because obviously, it's a lot of people who are interested in this kind of stuff and these conversations. It's always interesting to hear perspectives when we talk about current issues. It doesn't come up a lot, but every now and then we'll have discussions like that. And again, it's just sort of a mixed bag. There are some people that see things on one side of the spectrum and then other ones on the other. I think in general, though, I would say most people kind of dislike Trump, but I think in this situation, kind of like what y'all said, he handled it better than he normally would have. I'm also not a big Trump fan, but I can respect that he was able to put his politics aside. And I think that's what people in general want to see. They want it to be a little less political and things like that, and just to see him as a person and him as a leader in general, and not just, him trying to, be all crazy and do all the stuff he usually does. They just want him to kind of chill down for a minute and, just go out there and try to talk to the people and do things like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's not hard, just do what, put some humanity back into the situation and take care of people. That's what we want out of a president, I think, to protect people and then let everybody know it's going to be okay. He's got your back, and the government has your back when it comes to recouping from something like that. Speaking of Trump, what is Caroline? I keep forgetting her name, Levitt, who is the new press secretary. Whoops, too loud. Turn some of that down. So she had her first briefing this week. I don't know if you guys saw it, but she seemed to hold her on pretty well. It's got to be a tough job being the mouthpiece for Trump. And I just wondered from you all, do you think, how hard would that be? Can you imagine yourself being in that position and you getting up and having to tell in front of the reporters? It's a tough job, and I don't know how long she'll last, but she's young, she's 27. So she's young for the job, but she's doing a good job. I think she's really holding her own. But I just wonder about that. It's like, what must go on behind closed doors in the White House?
God bless her.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough job.
Yeah, I mean, and Chloe, you're in school for journalism and broadcasting. I mean, it's kind of up your alley. And I mean, could you see yourself doing a job like that? I mean, I think it would be so stressful.
Yeah, I can't imagine, especially with Trump specifically, having to be his personal mouthpiece, like you said, and things like that. I think it's very tough, especially since she is so young. But I also think her being young might give her an advantage because she probably has a better understanding sort of like technology and the social media sphere, like what people are saying and what people want to hear and things like that. So I think that can maybe help her. And also just seeing a younger face as opposed to, hearing Trump, who's obviously an older man, versus having a younger woman speak, I think that might help. Yeah. But definitely is hard on her, again, especially since she is so young and probably very new to the industry and stuff. Just being kind of thrown into that is probably very scary. But I respect her for it. It's definitely a tough job to have.
Yeah, I think no matter who the president is, it's tough. You got to be right on for answers when they throw the questions at you. You got to be really thinking on your feet for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. God bless her.
Yeah, it's a tough job.
It's a tough job for any president, honestly.
Yeah.
Because not everybody in the press room is their friend. They may have done something that weekend where, not that weekend, but, they may have signed a policy into place that nobody liked. And or you may have found out something about, I don't know, they did something overseas. And now you got to go up there and ensure to defend them. And it's not a good time.
No. And then what do you do if you don't know I mean, I know she kind of, will say, well, I'll get back to you. And then that's why she doesn't have the answer. But
sorry, I don't know.
I don't know. You just really have to be engaged when having an answer, no matter what the question is. And looking like you do know all the answers, it's just like we've said, it's just tough. I mean, it doesn't matter, I think, who the president is. It's, oh, did we lose Chloe? Oh, there she is.
Chloe, come back.
Technical difficulties. Come back, Chloe. Chloe, can you hear us? Oh, her screen came back. But I mean, I think too, when she has a briefing, does she go back and does Trump say to her, give her feedback like, oh, you need to say this more, you need to spin this and spin that. That's got to be tough when you get steps on your integrity, you know?
Yeah, I would never. I could never. Um, because if you do something that I don't agree with, I have to go out there and defend you to the public and to the media. And I couldn't do it. If like my moral compass is like absolutely not, like dang, looks like you gotta find somebody else to represent you.
Yeah, bring
I
somebody
gotta
else
go.
in.
Yeah, just have like a
Oh,
rotation.
yeah, exactly. I'll work in another department, but yeah, not give me some other job.
Just severance me, please. Golden
Yeah,
parachute me, please.
yes, exactly. Well, I don't know. Hopefully Chloe will sign back on. But in the meantime, we were talking about this story with Blake Lively. This is another big story in the news with this lawsuit with the director and co-star. And I've got a little bit of video here. That's just that scene that they have is the raw video that got leaked, I guess. But this is the scene that I guess Blake is putting out that he was inappropriate or touched her inappropriately. But to me, they look like they're doing okay. I don't know anything that's offensive, or I've seen the whole clip. I cut a section out of this, but do you think there's anything to this, or do you think it's just a lot to do about nothing?
There was a point where she like pulled back and she actually looked really uncomfortable.
Mm,
Um, and as an actress in my past life, I guess,
yeah.
um, I could visibly see she like winced back. Chloe, are you back?
Hey, Chloe.
Chloe,
Chloe's back.
you're back! Yay! Welcome
Yeah,
back.
sorry, I don't know. It logged me off for a second, and I had to restart it, but
Oh, that's weird.
no, it's okay.
Sorry about that. We're,
Count your days, Riverside. Count your days.
yes. Software technology is great until it's not.
Yeah.
We're Chloe. We were just talking about that scene with Blake Lively. Have you seen that video that was leaked of the actual scene
The one where
from the
they're like
movie?
kind of dancing. Yeah, I have seen
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah. Well, Zipporah, what you were getting ready to say, she looked like to you that she felt uncomfortable in the one part.
Yeah, where he got really close and she almost like instinctively winced and like pulled back. And
Mm.
as an actor, one of my cats, you're going to see them. His name is Tank. Say hi to the people. Say hi,
Oh, there's
Stinky.
Tank,
Yeah,
one
Tank
of
is
our
here.
mascots.
Yes, Friskies, Friskies, Friskies. Yeah, as an actress, when you're doing like intimacy scenes, sir, I love you so much, but please. When you're doing intimacy scenes, it's there's a coach for that. And so there's somebody who helps you work through that so
Mm-hmm.
that the boundaries that need to be established are established and everybody is comfortable. And for her to pull back like that, one is unprofessional if you've worked through said intimacy scenes, and
Mm-hmm.
two, it shows that something was probably going on
Yeah.
outside, like behind the scenes on set. Do I think it constitutes a lawsuit? Not really.
Yeah.
But I'm also not the person to be like, don't believe a woman when she says that something like that has happened.
Sure.
So it's weird because like there are coaches for that
Yeah.
on set. Like there are things put in place so that a person isn't uncomfortable.
Which
And
I'm sure they
especially,
had,
yeah,
right? I mean, I'm sure I'm
yeah,
filmed like that. Yeah.
yeah. What is it? Netflix film?
I think
Like
so.
multi-million-dollar budget? Yeah, like they have an intimacy coach on set. I promise you they do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something that should have been mitigated there. But her husband is Ryan Reynolds. Like
Yeah.
there was an intimacy coach on set for sure.
Which I think too, the big blow up was, according to him, the director and co-star. His name escapes
Say,
me,
say
but
bye.
bye. That she tried to take over in editing and really have control of the film, and I think that's kind of what blew it up a little bit also, that even Ryan stepped in and they tried to really take control of the film. And I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of he said, she said there, but I do know, like you said, Zipporah, if she's uncomfortable, I mean, you don't question that. If a lady is uncomfortable, she's uncomfortable. So you can't really, I don't think there's a degree there where you can say, oh, you shouldn't feel uncomfortable. If she does, she does. But have either one of you been in a situation where, even with a friend or someone that got too close or too, involved, and it was uncomfortable for you all, and you had to pull back or let them know, hey, this is across the line?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No. Yeah.
It's tough, right?
It is. I think men. No slight to you, Jason. You're wonderful, but you're great. No problem. I think men aren't, like, girls are taught to be agreeable. Women are taught to be agreeable in Western society. Well, really, I think across the world in most cultures. And so there's a history of women allowing men to do things. And I think with the most recent generations in America specifically, like with the Me Too movement, like there has been encouragement to speak up and speak out. And the situations that I've been in, I'm a vocal person naturally. I'll tell you where to go, how to go, what to do. I'll try to be respectful about it. But in my situations, I've had to tell people who are my friends, like, yo, nah, like, no, like that is inappropriate. That makes me uncomfortable. And it's gone one of two ways. It's gone, oh, I'm so bad, Zip. That's what they call me in my personal life. Feel free. But my bad, Zip. I didn't know, my bad. That wasn't my intention. Or they get offended because I didn't allow them to do what they wanted. And that's what they're accustomed to, letting people letting them do what they want. And it sucks, but it takes a special backbone for you to be like, hey, no, this is my boundary and you've crossed it. Back up. Like, we could still have a relationship, but if you don't respect my boundary, there's no way we can have a relationship, and I'm not going to let you physically disrespect me. And you just hope in those situations, you hope that the person on the receiving end is somebody who's empathetic and integral and willing to be humble, and understand that they've made you uncomfortable, whether it's their intention or not. Like, that's the impact, and you hope that they receive it like that. But sometimes they can get belligerent. I'm from New York, so we get catcalled on the street all the time. I've been cursed out because I've told a guy no. Not too long ago, a couple years ago, a girl got shot because she told a guy no, shot and killed because she told the guy no. So, like, this isn't an isolated incident. This is something that happens to women every single day. And you just dangerous. Hope it is. And so, like, do you let them do what they want to do, or do you risk your life? And like in New York, it sounds it sounds obnoxious, but in New York, like, that's what it is. And so if you deal with New York women in general, they're so aggressive because we have to be. Yeah. Because we don't know what we're going to get when we tell a guy no, friend or not.
Wow. Chloe, similar experiences?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm kind of the opposite. I'm not a super vocal person when it comes to things like that. I'm just not good at telling people no. Like, I'm definitely very much a people pleaser. So sometimes those situations can be hard for me, where I don't really know how to navigate them or go about it without, like, offending the other person or angering them, especially as a young woman. Men sometimes, like Zipporah said, they can either be really agreeable and be genuinely apologetic because, that's just not what they meant, or they can be the opposite and almost take it as, like, a personal offense or make it, more aggressive. I've actually had conversations with some of my male friends about that kind of thing, where I've told them about situations where a guy has, like, done or said something that made me, like, weird or uncomfortable or anything like that. A lot of times their response is, well, you could have done this, or, like, you should have said this to him to, like, get him to go away. And it's like, well, it's not always that easy, because it can be a dangerous situation where you don't know what their reaction is going to be.
Yeah, you don't know how violent they're going to get. If it hurts their ego enough, then they're going to just take it out on you. I mean, that's Do you think that's one reason, people always tell women, well, if it's so bad, leave, leave the situation in the marriage? Or do you think that's one reason women don't? Because they are just, it's sort of a protection that kicks in. Like, if I do leave, what's going to happen? Is he going to basically come get me? I mean, take it out on me. So I don't think it's as cut and dry as if you're in a bad relationship, and you don't have to be married, but for, someone to say, why don't you just leave? It's not that hard, but really it is. It's not that easy.
Yeah, I agree. It's really gray.
Yeah. And I don't know, back to Blake Lively, I don't know if, like you said, there could have been something else going there. We don't know if it's something, a crush, or either one of them had. I mean, they looked like, until it got to the point where it was a little uncomfortable for her, it looked like they were really enjoying it. So, and even their body language was like, we're more than just acting partners, so who knows? I mean, I don't know if that'll ever come out, but it's definitely a lesson, I think, for that. I mean, like you said, Zipporah, to have a coach like that, you have to do that to protect who's on set, right? It's a liability if you don't.
Yeah. It's usually either required in contracts or SAG-AFTRA requires it. Like, it's standard practice to have an intimacy coach, whether it be in live theater or it be on set for a television show or a movie. Especially, that's why I'm like, it's Netflix. Like, it's standard industry practice. Like, why wouldn't you have that? And so the person, if she was uncomfortable with choreography in a scene, the person to mitigate that would be the director and the intimacy coach. And they would, she's uncomfortable. Hey, I'm uncomfortable with XYZ. And they rearrange choreography so that she is more comfortable. But maybe she didn't say anything. She was also a producer on the movie as well, which was why she was, they were trying to take over the editing in the editor's room. And so that, like, trust the team that you hired at this point. You're not you're a producer. Your job is to give money and guidance and step back and trust the team and say yay or nay to some decisions. But yeah.
I would say it also would be tough to take on a job as a director, but also co-starring in it. I think that's just a lot to bite off,
Yeah.
Wow. Well, speaking of Hollywood and shows, and I just had to share this with you guys, this clip. And I know some you haven't seen it. Maybe, I don't know if Chloe, have you seen this show? I think you both said
No,
you've
I
not
have
seen
heard
it.
of it,
Severance.
though.
Yeah. So the concept, if you don't know, it's these characters who work at a company called Lumen, and they get this procedure done. It's highly controversial, that they split their brainwaves. So they don't remember, when they go into work, they don't remember who they are as a person, their personal life, if they're married, if they have kids, any of that. And then vice versa, when they leave work at the end of the day, they don't know what they do at work. And they're, it's a pharmaceutical company. So you get the impression that there's some weird stuff going on. So we don't know yet what's happening exactly, but it's a very interesting, well done show. I was going to ask you both, would you do that if you had the chance to? A lot of the characters in the show do it to get around some trauma that they've had. So they have part of the day they don't have to think about it. Thinking about your lives, would you do that in order to, like, get rid of some of those memories, at least for maybe 8 hours of the day?
I don't think I would, but I could see the benefits of it, especially in a work environment, or why people would want to do that, especially if you are dealing with something that difficult, or even if you just need time to kind of, like, be away from the emotional side of things or things like that, and just be in that sort of, like, work mental headspace. Again, I don't think I personally would, because I think that can also be dangerous, but I could see the benefits of why people would want to do it, especially if you have a lot of trauma or things like that. Being able to block that out, at least for a short amount of time, and forget about it, definitely would be really nice. But then obviously it comes back again later. So,
right. Yeah. There's a character in the show that he lost his wife in a car accident, and he could not go back to his regular job. He just couldn't do it. It just was messing with him. So he did this procedure, but when he comes home, he has a problem with alcohol. So it hits him when he gets home. So he remembers it. So yeah, you kind of look at that like, okay, maybe, and he's a completely different person at work. He's happy and he's, a lot of friends, but yeah, you get home, it's going to catch up with you. So may not be, you can't outrun it. I think everybody goes through things in life, and there's one lady that decides to do it just to get through her pregnancy of having the baby. She has several babies, but she doesn't want to go through the pain and of the actual delivery. So she does it for that reason. So yeah, it's weird. It's something that, it's one of those things that you think about, and it makes for great television. I'll say that.
Oof. Yikes,
But
man. Nah.
wow, no,
January.
not for you.
Nah. The month of January has been very tempting.
Yo, yeah, no, yeah. I think everybody's had it's been a rough beginning of the year for sure.
Yeah. But no, I don't think, I mean, because to the point of the character who goes home and it all hits him and he like deals with alcoholism, there's only so long you can run. Like your body keeps score. And so even though you may consciously forget, like your liver's still corroding at work, dude. Like they're not replacing your liver when you go in for your 8 hours, And
that's
your
whole different surgery.
Yeah, no, that's a lot. Imagine. But yeah, your body keeps score of trauma. Your body holds on to that. So even if you're not like we do that, I think it's an interesting concept to expand on compartmentalization. Because we do that subconsciously. I know there are parts of my childhood that I do not remember. And I have ADHD, so that's part of it, one. But two, I know that that's my brain's way of protecting me from things that my brain believes are too difficult for me to handle. And that's what we have therapy for. Yay, therapy. But that is, for that, you have to go back and tackle those and then put words to it and then work through it so that your body physically can then release whatever aches or pains or wherever it's storing it. And I think that shows an awesome way of expanding upon, like, if your brain could just compartmentalize all your trauma just so that you could survive. We were talking about this before I think we started recording.
Yeah.
Just exactly. Like trying to get through, I think now I might go watch something.
Yeah, you check it out. It's interesting for sure. It's makes you think. I think I'm like you, although I don't think I would do that, because at the end of the day, I think what we go through makes us better people because we learn from it and we just get stronger, I think. So everybody has to go through something. I mean, there's stuff in life. It's messy. Life is messy. So to block it out like that, you're messing with your brain. Number one, then number two, it's just, I don't think, well, we don't know yet in the show, but I think it's supposed to be irreversible. They're trying to, get around that. And there's some people that have tried it to get it fixed, but I don't know. I think about Elon Musk and his brain chip, and you start messing around with the brain, it just sort of makes me nervous.
Yeah, it's scary to think about.
I mean, medical advancement's great, but I think don't mess with my brain. I don't think.
No.
Want that. I mean, trauma, and I mean, it's horrible, but trauma and those bad experiences, it makes us. That's what our life is stacked up to be, good things and bad things. So it makes us who we are today, So
yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I say that after coming through things, when you're going through it, you may have different thoughts. Like, yeah, I'll get rid of this thought for sure. Yeah. But,
Control Alt Delete.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, reboot. Wow. Well, you guys, we're coming up on time. I just want to thank you both again. It's been a great conversation, and for anybody that's out there watching, please continue to come back and help support us. There's all kinds of links in the description of the show to be able to help support us, and I guess do all the things like subscribe and share, tell all your friends about the show. I mean, it's the greatest show out there, right? So tell everybody about it. Chloe and Zipporah, where can people find you if they want to connect with you guys?
Sorry.
Go for it, Chloe.
Yeah, I am on social media. Right now mine's private, but I'm planning on making it public soon. But But yeah, I'm on Instagram. That's my main social media. It's Chloe Cross with 2 extra S's at the end. So yeah, you can find me on there. I'm not really on TikTok much or Twitter or anything like that. It's mainly just Instagram.
So ask really nice, and maybe she'll let you be a friend. And Zipporah, where are you hanging out these days?
I'm not as exclusive as Chloe, so there's no. You don't have to ask; you just find me. It's Zipporah Gabrielle on, I think, all social media platforms. I'm mainly just on IG. TikTok, I deleted the app, so I can't download it again. But it's up there. And yeah, Instagram, Threads. I have another podcast I do called Vision Oversight, and so I'm up there talking about stuff.
Nice.
So yeah, you can follow that as well, and it's just the Vision Oversight podcast on Instagram and Threads and stuff. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. And then we're at Makash Films. We're on Instagram at Makash Films. And then, of course, the YouTube channel. You can find our shows. And we'll be back here every week and talking about the crazy stories of the week. And please reach out to us if you have any questions or anything you want us to cover, or just to say hi. We're always here. So let us know, and hope you all have a great week and stay safe.
It's a balloon
What was
thing.
that? Perfect. That's perfect. Perfect ending.